Soviet core, a term coined by American teenage girls to describe the Soviet era while sitting in the comfort of their Vinewood Hills mansion. Bright Lights of Svetlov is one of the most well-known games with this atmosphere, peaking at a whopping 49 players in 2021, which to be fair, is still 49 more people than are subscribed to my YouTube channel.
Please! No!
Although apparently an adventure game, Bright Lights of Svetlov quickly becomes one of the most unsettling, non-horror games, but its ending makes it worth it. Beginning the game, we're immediately introduced to our protagonist, Anatoly Pulashevsky, an engineer coming home from work. Approaching the letterbox, we find our first letter. Dear Tolya, I'm glad to inform you that we successfully got to Alushta. Sea, sunfruits, a fairy tale, not a place. The boarding house is also at the highest level. Shower, hot water, everyone's very polite. It's immediately obvious that it's a departmental one. We live on the 3rd floor, although it's a view of the market, but that's okay. Masha is still afraid of going into the water, but Dima is fine. All he needs is to sit in the water all day. But we have an excursion tomorrow. We'll go to look at the fish in the aquarium and then to the park. 3 large excursions are included into the voucher. We were informed about 4, but the fortress is under reconstruction. You have to go here yourself next year. I understand renovation work, but fresh air is a necessity for your health. And Nadia's too. Children adore the seashore. Thanks again for the voucher. Say hello to Tamara, your sister and cousins. 22nd of the 4th, 1981. We can gather that Anatoly's nickname is Tolya, and it's a pretty simple letter from his sister about a vacation. More importantly, we learn that he has a daughter named Nadia and a wife named Tamara. Attached with the letter is a stamp, revealing our location. Svetlov City, Zavodskoye Avenue, Building 15. Entering the lift, we move to the 8th floor.
These Pokemon Charizard pajamas. She gets me these are pajamas, brother. I'm going out in these. I'm going to work tomorrow in these. Cause what about the lawn cars?
Looking at the hallway, we can see a perfectly uniform layout with rooms distinguished only by numbers and rugs for decoration. Opening the electricity box, we find the stashed bottle, which Tolya immediately remarks that it belongs to a man named Petrovich, suggesting that he's a known alcoholic. Approaching room 65, we hear Petrovich's wife yelling at him for being drunk, demanding to know where he's hidden the bottle. And to the left, we just have a simple storage cage. As we approach Tolya's apartment, we get our second letter. Tolya, you don't hear what I tell you, as usual. I'm on a night shift today. Svetka fell ill and went to the hospital, so her duties are mine for a while. I left keys at Claudia Markovna's apartment, number 67. And by the way, put your folder somewhere. I almost spilled glue on it. Don't read until midnight. This letter is presumably from his wife, Tamara, and it's revealed that her colleague Svetka is sick. Knocking on Claudia Markovna's door, she throws the keys on the ground, either out of rudeness or a complete fear of interaction. Opening the apartment, Tolya is greeted by the smell of his garbage bin, as well as our task list for today. Put the folder away, just like Tamara said, and take out the rubbish. It's very good to see that the game's developer Vladimir Chalakian made the absolute most out of Unreal Engine 5, because this bin must have taken up the whole 3 GB of the game's file. Intentional or not, it's a nice detail that there's no plastic bag in the rubbish bin, because at the time, plastic bags were scarce in the USSR. Exiting the apartment, we empty the bin before it just despawns. Back in our apartment to put Tolya's folder away, we knock the glue over, just like Tamara nearly did in her letter, adding another task to our list. This room will be extremely important to the story. Looking around, we can see that this is the renovated room Tolya's sister talked about in the first letter. After putting the folder in a cabinet, you get a rug, rinse it, and then some alcohol to clean the glue. After cleaning it, you're instructed to go to sleep. Before we go to sleep, you can have a look around the apartment and there's not much to do at all. On day 1, you've done nothing besides mundane tasks, but after making the bed and sleeping, the game begins to pick up.
Борьбу всему обществу, государству, а значит органам планирования, снабжения, финансирования, низовым...
It's now 8 years later and you're playing as someone completely different. Victor Revchuk, a second lieutenant. Standing up, we're in an apartment with the exact same layout as Tolya's, just with a different furniture arrangement. It's hard to tell if this is a different apartment in the same building or if this is actually Tolya's own apartment just 8 years later. Walking into the end room reveals that this is Tolya's old apartment because the wallpaper he was putting up is now finished. Looking at the room, we can now see that it is a child's bedroom. Using the very first letter, we can put 2 and 2 together and work out that this is Nadia's room, Tolya and Tamara's daughter. But also while we're here, make note of this little burnt dot on the Venrock poster on the wall because it's very important. Even though it's Victor living here, Tolya's family's stuff is still everywhere, something Victor even remarks on himself.
Да, и учебники бросили.
It's here where we find our next letter on the desk, which before I read must be so important because the words can just magically write over the non-existent paper. Since my mum is at the hospital, now I have to study harder, not to upset her. Dad is nervous too, but he tries to hide it. Not very successful. After work, he always goes to the hospital, so I'm by myself most of the day. Not bad at all. I'm not a child anymore, I'm 13. According to Afghan laws, young bride. Because of that, I have to do a lot of household things, but it's not hard. I got used to it pretty quick. Once I decided to cook a borscht. To please Dad, he liked it. Maybe I can become a cook, not cosmonaut. I wonder if Tereshkova is good at cooking. Sashka still writes me love poems. I don't even take it from the mailbox, it's weary. He still can't understand. I'm more than just a girl. I'm born to travel to space. I'm of incomprehensible magnitude, and he's as close to me as the moon and back. Just a stupid boy, and the ugly. This nose, crooked teeth, I would smile less in his place. Some man from my mother's work came by today. He left a letter. I decided not to open it. Took it to the living room. If that's important, Dad will figure it out. This letter is massive in the story. What's confusing is that although this is in Nadia's room, she talks about being an adult in Afghan law, but still tries to make borscht a Ukrainian food. Nadia being Afghan would be surprising because both her and her parents' names are distinctly Ukrainian. However, the name Tamara is actually a derivative from Hebrew, which isn't actually a reach because it's kind of relevant later in the story. The only way I can see this being the case is if Tamara is ethnically Afghan and is a second generation immigrant into the USSR. But if this is Nadia's letter, it's got some massive implications for the story. Firstly, it means that Tamara was sick in hospital, similar to how her colleague Svetka was sick in that letter that we first read when we enter the apartment. Combined with Claudia Markovna's reaction to Tolya, we can piece together that there could be some sort of illness going around. Either that, or they just couldn't have been bothered to create a character model for Claudia. Next, it makes this Afghani bit a little bit confusing. Her language suggests that she is Afghani, saying that she's got to do housework because she's no longer a child in Afghan law. At this time, the Soviet Union and Afghanistan were at war, so Afghans living in the USSR were attempting to flee. But if she isn't Afghani, then it's probably only referenced because Afghanistan was a contemporary, dare I say, hot topic. Mind you, this is all under the pretense that this was actually written by Nadia. If it wasn't, then I've got no idea and I've just pissed all my viewer attention away from everyone clicking off, but I promise this is gonna get quicker. Regardless, this girl has an admirer in Sashka, who she thinks is way below her.
Okay, now kiss my shoe.
On top of that, we have no idea who Victor is and why he's living in Tolya's still pristine family home. Moving into the kitchen, we find the note that Victor's been writing. Dear Masha, it's been a month since I was moved to Svetlov. Sorry for not writing long, didn't know what. I don't like the city a lot. It's very grey and dirty. People are gloomy and surly. One thing makes me happy. Beer here is cheap and quite tasty. The soldiers at the military unit are alright, but their behaviour is quite aggressive sometimes. The day before yesterday, one soldier decided to cut the lieutenant with a kitchen knife. It's good we reacted on time. They had some quarrel beforehand. The soldier was sent to another unit and was only left with a reprimand. The heads didn't want to spoil the statistics on the verge of the general's arrival. Got off easy, I guess. I still feel as a guest in this apartment. Some engineer lived here with his family, but suddenly left and left almost all the stuff. Apparently he earns a lot. There's no neighbours on my floor, and with the rest I don't even greet. What's the point? I'm here temporarily. One day some random guy proposed me to buy a bicycle. Everyone rides them here. The factory pays salary with its products for almost a year, as they said. The engineer probably drove off on a bicycle too. I refused the offer, of course. From here to the military unit is only 20 minutes on foot. In the evenings I usually sit in front of the TV and, The letter's unfinished, but I assume Victor will finish it by saying that he sits at the TV and watches the latest Papa Hawwy YouTube video. It confirms that Tolya, the engineer he's talking about, and his family no longer live in the apartment and suddenly left without taking anything. On top of that, no one else lives on the floor. No Petrovich and no Claudia Markovna. Obviously, we're supposed to speculate why everyone vanished, but so far we've got no indication besides a possible illness that's been going around. Attempting to sit down causes Victor to say,
На трезвую голову я не допишу.
much like me rotting away editing this video right now. Getting a beer from the fridge and sitting down to write, we phase into chapter 3.
Вот, так-то лучше.
We're now playing as Tamara, cleaning the house just one day after the events as Tolya in chapter 1. This game jumps back and forth between timelines, but don't worry, you're safe with me, I'm gonna tell you which is which. We also now know that Tamara works as a warehouse manager at the CHPP. With a new set of tasks, we wash the dishes, water the flowers, and hang out the laundry, before hearing the doorbell ring. Answering it, we receive a package with a letter. Dear Tamara Ivanovna, I'm very glad you work in our team. You are a ray of light in the midst of routine and boredom. Your openness and a lively gleam in your eyes makes me go to work with joyful desire. Now, as a little bit of an intermission, if I close my eyes, I like to imagine that this first line is fan mail that I've received from one of my many adoring subscribers. Completely by chance, I heard that your husband wanted to buy a cassette player, but this good in our city is rare, almost exceptional. Don't consider this a bad taste and accept this modest present from me. Blossom and smell. Wish your husband good health. VP. Going into the package, we can see that VP has left them a cassette player. This VP person, who's a colleague of Tamara, clearly isn't a very secret admirer of her. Similar to how, who we're assuming to be Nadia, has a secret admirer in the ugly boy Sashka. I feel like him giving the family the cassette player is trying to big dog Tolya a little bit, especially given that he seems to have used Tamara's maiden name, not her married name, to address her. Picking up the package, Tamara interprets this the exact same way that I did and hides it from Tolya, finishing chapter 3. A week on from chapter 3, we're back playing as Tolya. Picking up some sort of ID card, we learn more about who Tolya is, an engineer at the bicycle plant. It also serves as a face reveal, something that I'll never do to avoid being heckled by all of my female fans. In the kitchen, we find a note from Tamara. Morning Tolya. I decided to leave a note or you'll forget everything, as usual. You have to finish all we haven't done. Hang the shelf above Nadia's table. Not high, I know how you can. Deal with the wallpaper at last and hang the ceiling lamp. It's in the storage room. But be careful please. It was hard to find and I had an argument with Svetka about that. She wanted it too. Wait by morning. I also love the idea that Ukrainian wives just give their husbands a checklist of tasks to complete each morning like tomorrow's some sort of Ubisoft game. Tolya sets off on his tasks, hammering Nadia's shelf, finishing her room's wallpaper and hanging the ceiling lamp. While we do this, the game's sound design completely carries it through the admittedly tedious tasks. And it's cause of that atmosphere that when this happens, it actually acts as a jump scare.
Что это за звук? С балкона, кажется.
Inspecting the balcony, a bird has either hit the window and died or just fell from the sky, concluding chapter 4. 4 years on from chapter 4, we're back playing as Tamara. Up to now, chapter 5 is our third chronological chapter in a row, with chapter 2 as Victor jumping ahead to when the apartment was abandoned. In the mailbox, we have another letter. Lilac is blooming in the country house. Willows are withering over the river. But there's no beauty in life, Nadyushka is a joke. Your laughter, like a trill, chirps. Minds are bursting from the look. Oh Nadia, Nadia, Nadia. How scary it is to be beautiful. You like fashionable songs and detective movies, but you don't look at me. How happy I am. This poem confirms that the letter Victor was reading in 1989 was written by Nadia, and that this poem must be written by Sashka, the boy who has a crush on her. Getting back up to the apartment.
It's good, the shorts, and then the Yeezys cuz match the Amis. The outfit's so good that I had to wear the watch. Sorry? My wedding ring. It doesn't match the concept, and I hate rings. I feel claustrophobic.
We find a surprise at room 65. Petrovich has died.
Да, был тут человек и нет.
Tamara's apathy implies that it was from his alcoholism, and she dismisses it before entering her own apartment. Inside, we get our new tasks, being to check Nadia's school performance and to make her bed. Also, if you remember that Venrock poster on the wall with the burnt dot, we can't see the burnt dot, meaning that it mustn't be there yet. So it must appear sometime between now and 1989. We also see that Nadia has been doing horribly at school, much to Tamara's disappointment.
Что за ребенок? Стыдоба.
Making her bed, we find another note. The idea to go to the factory summer camp. The best in the whole summer. Thanks, Dad. Not Simferopol, of course, but at least it has a lake. It was so fruitful with events that you won't experience this in the city for an entire year. It's a shame that Kadia and Inga live in different districts. They are very smart and progressive girls. We liked each other very much. Wanted to smoke a cigarette to remember the camp. Stole it from fathers, won't notice anyway. Coughed a lot, but then got used. Inga, of course, has a lot more experience in this, but I'm not planning to be a professional smoker though. Forced Sashka to find the whole packet. He did. Stole it from his grandpa, presumably. Who cares? I should have any benefit to being his friend. Was reading his stupid poems that he puts in the mailbox and smoking in the garage. The only place where I won't be noticed. I even took the recorder there. Almost moved, all in all, while it's still summer. I heard that Petrovich is ill. Got to the hospital. Probably would die soon, no pity for him. He's a drunkard and always quarrels with his wife. But I'm sorry for Uncle Alex from the floor beneath. He was always good to me. Nadia has been rebellious and must be a teenager now. Her friends Kadia and Inga seem to have got her hooked on the ciggies, and Sashka has been supplying them. Stealing them probably because cigarettes are too expensive and they don't have access to the Melbourne black market.
Hi, this is to Anthony Albanese, our Australian Prime Minister. Can you please lower the cost of the cigarettes? It's delusional, okay?
Despite that, she maintains that she'll only smoke occasionally. The phone rings and Tamara answers.
Come over, oh la la, come to me, spanky, spanky.
Oh my god! Добрый день, Тамара Ивановна.
С кем говорю?
У меня к вам очень деликатный разговор, не телефонный. Уделите мне немного
Для
времени.
начала представьтесь.
Вы меня знаете. Это очень важный разговор. Когда вам удобнее встретиться?
The man wants to meet her, telling her she knows him. We can assume that this is her admirer, VP, the guy who gave them the cassette player. We go to the garage to investigate where Nadia's been smoking. Getting to the door, this is the first time we step outside the apartment. Firewatch is a game about escapism and cheating on your wife. In Firewatch, the characters become entrenched in a massive conspiracy, but out of a desire to escape, they get lost in the source, and it turns out that the real conspiracy was totally out of their control in a very fatalist way. This scene of stepping outside the apartment has a very Firewatch type of atmosphere to it, which is interesting because there are huge parallels between Firewatch and Bright Lights of Svetlov. I'll make a video on Firewatch in a few months or something because I know how badly all of my viewers want it. But it is interesting to remember as we get to the end of this game how similarly Bright Lights of Svetlov handles the idea of control as Firewatch. Way back when Firewatch came out and the years since, a lot of people were always wanting a Firewatch sequel, but nobody knows about this game, and it kind of is like the sequel it never got. Walking into the garages, we approach the gate.
Ой, что-то нехорошо.
Tamara's feeling sick. We know that she eventually fell ill enough to end up in hospital because Nadia wrote about it in the letter that Victor was reading. Walking into the garage, we find Nadia's hideout. Next to the cassette player, we find the next note. Saturday, Inga came here 6 bus stops from my house. I wouldn't be allowed to go that far. Smoked cigarettes, chatted, listened to music. Smoked again. Never thought I'd end up being a smoker, but it was very funny. We closed the door or the smoke would be seen from outside. There was such a fog inside the garage, like Pugacheva's concert at Olympic Stadium. Exchanged a scarf for the Venrock poster at school. The scarf was old and raggy. Venrock is new and cool. Now he's staring at me from the wall. I believe everyone would know about him soon and it will become boring to listen to him. The whole idea of loving a musician not popular is a mystery by itself. If that happens, I'll just hang another poster on top. Can't take it off. I covered some burnt dot on the wall with it. Have no idea where it came from. Maybe dad accidentally did something and never told us. Anyway, it's better to hide it. They spent so much time and effort on the renovation while I live with my grandparents that they definitely won't be happy to see it. Aside from the fact that Nadia's just been hotboxing her parents' garage, this letter gives a massive tell for the story. Nadia's talking about the burnt dot on the Venrock poster, the one that was in her room in 1989 with Victor but wasn't at the start of this chapter. Walking back to the apartment, we know that it's been way too quiet for this chapter to be this simple. Tamara immediately recognizes that this must be the man from the phone. Approaching the car, this cutscene plays out.
Тамара Ивановна, прошу.
Я к вам не сяду.
Поверьте, это очень важный разговор.
Не надо меня донимать. Уезжайте.
Хорошо. Тогда на досуге почитайте вот это.
Tamara throws the folder, turning the cassette player on. Inspecting it, it reads, Investigator of the KGB Department of the RSFSR in the Svetlov region, Captain VP Krasnov, as part of the interrogation of witnesses and familiarization with the materials of the check, found out Citizen Pulashevsky Anatoly Vladimirovich, Jewish by nationality, Senior Engineer of the Development Bureau of the Svetlov bicycle plant named after Lenin, is suspected of high treason, namely in the transfer of technological documentation for product samples to foreign companies in exchange for financial reward and assistance in obtaining an exit pass to the State of Israel. Taking into account that the inspection materials contain sufficient data indicating signs of the commission of a crime under Art 64 of the Criminal Code of the RSFSR, it is necessary to open a criminal case and start investigative actions. Investigator of the USSR KGB Directorate for the Svetlovskaya region, Major Krasnov, VP. This letter is from VP, Tamara's secret admirer, who's revealed to be an investigator for the KGB in Svetlov. We have now learned that Tolya is Jewish. He's being accused of selling documents from the Svetlov bicycle plant to overseas companies and trying to basically defect from the USSR to Israel. During the 80s in the Soviet Union, Jews were marginalized, and if VP's letter is true, Tolya is likely now a refusnik, a Soviet Jew who's denied permission to emigrate. Refusniks were identified by the KGB when denied of an exit pass, and VP is aware that Tolya wants an exit pass. When denied, refusniks would often lose their jobs and could be denied employment, which goes without saying that it could ruin Tolya's family. A few things just don't make sense here. Not once have we heard Tolya and Tamara talk about trying to leave to Israel, and judging by the effort that they put into Nadia's room, they plan on staying in Svetlov. On top of that, there's been no indication of Tolya being spied on, unless the cassette player that VP gave the family was some sort of spying device. One possibility that I see is that VP is just completely lying, and that he's using his power to try to imprison Tolya out of this weird, psycho possessiveness for Tamara, but even that seems far-fetched. It's also worth noting that Tolya's ID that we saw in chapter 4 could actually be an exit pass, which would obviously prove VP correct. If you compare it to an actual exit pass, they do look very similar. Now's also a good time to re-bring up the fact that Tamara's name is of Hebrew origin, which could kind of be used to corroborate the idea that the family are Jewish. Regardless, this is where the game begins to take a complete turn. Turning the cassette off, the chapter ends. It's 1 month later and we're back playing as Toya. There's an already opened letter in the living room. Comrade Pulashevsky, the collective of the CHPP-1 Enterprise, is deeply concerned about the grave illness of your wife and our good friend, Tamara Ivanovna. This is a bright, kind person who will always come to the rescue and will not give up in difficult times. We want to thank you in kind. Please accept from us this modest sum of money collected from the entire department, sincerely and from our heart. We wish you and Nadia strength and Tamara Ivanovna a quick recovery. The staff of the supply department of CHPP-1 and personally Comrade Krasnov VP. In the last month, Tamara has become gravely ill. This explains the lightheadedness and must be what Nadia was talking about in her letter. It seems like again VP's trying to big dog Toya by sending the money. This is bizarre given that only last month VP was trying to imprison Toya. After setting up the family's new TV, the phone rings.
Сейчас Михаил Сергеевич и премьер-министр Франции направляются к трапу самолета.
Анатолий Владимирович?
Да.
Ваша жена скончалась. Следует приехать в больницу и расписаться в акте заключения врачебной комиссии.
Что?
Возьмите с собой паспорт. Сегодня сокращенный день, работаем до...
Надя! Надя, дочка, открой дверь.
Tamara has died from her illness, just 1 month after Pertovich died. This is also the first time we've even seen a silhouette of another character in a game, marking the end of Chapter 6. Before we go into Chapter 7, I want to make one quick intervention. There is one single person who I found on YouTube playing this game, and his reaction to Tamara dying is probably the most valid reaction you could ever have.
My wife died. That sucks.
It's Chapter 7 and we're back playing as Victor, 2 days after the first time we played as him in 1989 in Chapter 2. He's in Nadia's room, reading letters that she left on her desk. I sit at the separate desk in class. After chemotherapy, everyone thinks I'm contagious, that my mother infected me. Many teachers have had the same opinion. Don't call to the blackboard and look contemptuously. Here is a temple of science you told us about, Comrade Lenin. Sashka has matured this year and has become more like a man. Don't know how I even noticed that. A couple of times he got to my apartment and called for a walk. I couldn't refuse. We were promenading at the local park. He read me poems, not his, that's good. My state didn't bother him, and for that I really appreciate our friendship. Or not just friendship. I don't know. Probably I was very cruel with him this whole time. Beside it is another letter. A year has passed since Mum died. Time heals, they say, but I haven't noticed yet. There's some tension that still lingers, even when I'm home alone. I'm so ashamed that my mother found out about my activity in the garage. I still blush when I remember. What a fool I were, trying to spend more time outside. Inga now lives in my district. Their house was demolished and they have an apartment at the house opposite mine, at Proletaskaya Street 12. She even studies at the parallel class, because driving from here to her old school is time consuming. She quickly blended into the class, becoming the soul of the company. It seems to me that I could not do that. New people are always difficult to interact with. She even stopped greeting me, though, well, who am I, bold against the coolest girl in class. Dad bought a cool scarf from the factory studio, embroidered with patterns such as Arabic ones. I look like an Afghan girl in it, but I even like it, very colourful. At the time of writing the letters, Nadia has cancer, just like her mum. This reveals that Tamara died from cancer. There must be something hereditary that was causing the cancer because both Tamara and Nadia had it. Again, she references looking Afghan, but at this point in the story, I've got no idea what it could mean. Maybe one of my many subscribers can comment their guess. Turning around shows that the burnt hole on the Venrock poster is still there, even though, if we remember, Nadia put the poster there in the first place to cover the hole. Why would the hole still be showing through the poster unless it's somehow getting bigger? Going to sleep, it takes us to Chapter 8. We are now Nadia in 1986. 1 year after Tamara has died. On her desk is the very same letter that Victor was reading in the last chapter. This must mean that this is the last day before the family left. After wiping the benches, Nadia gets a flashlight and goes to the cellar to get tomatoes to make borscht. Once outside, an ambulance flies past, and after following it, it just despawns. When entering the cellar, it's pitch black. This is the first time in the game that our visibility has been limited, and by video game logic, it means that something's gonna happen.
О, что такое? Голова кружится. Больше точно не буду курить.
Nadia begins to get dizzy, blaming it on the cigarettes, getting dizzy the exact same way that Tamara did. It's not the cigarettes because we now know that it's cancer.
There's nothing wrong with having a bit of recreational fucking use, mate. And it's when we're getting out of control, that's when it gets bad. But we've got to step that.
But despite the darkness, nothing actually happens. We just get the tomatoes and we go back upstairs. After looking at the clock, Nadia says that Tolia will be home soon before the camera bizarrely cuts to outside the apartment. Assuming we're now playing as Tolia coming home, we go inside. And are greeted by a blank character model of Nadia. This chapter so far has probably been nothing more than Nadia's fever dream, woken up by Tolia coming home. Assuming that she's now awake proper, the screen fades to white again. We're in a pitch black room, walking towards a blindingly bright white door.
Я обязательно выйду отсюда.
It's clear that this has to be another dream sequence. Walking through the door, Nadia approaches this dream version of the garage. She blames Inga for getting her into smoking,
Не надо было Ингу слушать.
still thinking there's just the smokes that are causing her to see what she's seeing.
Это же мы. Инга?
The room flashes red with the floor falling apart. Back out of the dream, Tolia watches Nadia in her bed, crying. We're in a room with these white tessellating doors. In the middle is Nadia's desk with her school books. Picking up the flashlight again, we're put into complete darkness.
Меня так просто не обмануть. Я знаю, куда идти.
Using the torch, we see we're in this dream state version of Building 15. Walking up the stairwell, there's scattered notes all over the floor. After walking into the light, we're back in the real world with Tolia next to Nadia. It's now becoming a lot more clear what's actually going on.
Все будет хорошо, доченька. Я тут.
The room has a pink tint and the furniture is levitating. The sound and the atmosphere is absolutely terrifying. Now, this is probably a good time to admit that I am an absolute bitch. If I had any idea that this game was going to be remotely scary, I would not have bought it. And in this sequence, the noises on their own just act as jump scares, and it did actually terrify me. So much so that I clipped the last few minutes myself instead of just ripping the footage off YouTube. After collecting these floating keys, we open the front door, which makes this noise. No. We're put into this cave system with items spread all over from the game.
What's this fucking thing on the ground?
Just shoot it.
I can't.
Turning the corner, we see a silhouette of Tamara, holding her hand out, something that I found quite scary.
Ah, fuck me, bro.
Okay, no.
Oh my god.
Don't play it.
No, it's not even a scary game.
Following the cave and past the TV, we follow Tamara again, ending up at this door. After fading to white again, we're put in a grass field in this very ethereal state. Walking towards Tamara, Nadia recognizes who it is.
Это еще что?
Our character's woken up by a crackle, and judging by the voice and the furniture arrangement, we're back as Victor in 1989. This is confirmed in the kitchen, because when clicking on the chair, we get this text, and the same dialogue from chapter 2. Looking for the source of the sound, it leads us to a Geiger counter that ticks upwards as we get closer to Nadia's bedroom. Victor comments that the radiation levels are nearly that of Pripyat, the city that's next to Chernobyl. Entering the room, he goes to the burned dot on the Venrock poster.
Только ветер гудит в провода, тускло звезды мерцают. В темную ночь ты, любимая, знаю, не спишь, и у детской кроватки тайком ты слезу утираешь.
Inside of the wall is a radioactive capsule, and the game displays this text. Between 1981 and 1987 in the city of Kramatorsk, in a house on 7 Gardatsev-Kantamirotsev Street, 6 residents died from leukemia. After a thorough examination of the apartment by the specialists of the Department of Radiological Safety, a capsule with the substance cesium-137 was removed from the wall of the room, emitting about 1,800 roentgens a year. It has caused high levels of radiation in the 3 adjacent apartments. The capsule got into a concrete slab along with the rubble from a granite quarry, where it was inadvertently dropped by surveyors when working with a radioisotope level gauge. After extracting the capsule, the radiation level went back to normal. The perpetrators were not punished. All those subplots was just part of the lives of the family, and it was all red herrings. The capsule was completely out of their control, and the whole narrative was just a distraction from basically the inevitable, probably mirroring how it would have actually been for the victims of the incident. This ending probably doesn't tie it all together, so I'll put my MatPat hat on and try to make it make sense. There's a few questions that still need to be answered. The first one is what was happening with Nadia in the final chapter. My belief is that the whole of chapter 8 we were just playing as Nadia going back and forth between this fever dream like sequence to where she found Tamara in the afterlife. And in the real world, Toya was at her bedside as she died. I think the chapter's introduction showing her name, the date and the time is actually her day and time of death. Even the section where she dusted the house and went to the cellar, I think she was already dying, or at least having some sort of out-of-body experience. This could explain the ambulance flying past, as it could have been the ambulance actually coming to her. This out-of-body experience or fever dream-like state kind of explains the weird scenes where Toya was coming home and Nadia stood up, or at least it makes it make more sense. I think the sequence of Nadia walking towards a light is literally just that in the afterlife. The first few scenes are her leaving behind her regrets, smoking with her friends which she was embarrassed that Tamara found out about, and then not trying hard enough in school. After that, she's walking out of her room and the familiarity of her apartment, leaving behind everything that she knows. And only then is she actually able to transcend and join Tamara. Or maybe I'm just doing way too much. The next question is what was going on with that whole Jewish conspiracy refusnik plotline thing. I think that the Jewish conspiracy idea is what explains why the house was abandoned. In the Kramatorsk radiological accident, it was the father of the victim who initiated the investigation that led to the discovery of the capsule. We know that this can't be the same in Bright Lights of Svetlov in that Tolya started the investigation because we're playing as Victor who found it in 1989, the same year that it was found in real life. If you remember back to chapter 2, Victor was confused why Tolya abandoned the house without taking anything and just vanished. I think that as soon as Nadia died, Tolya had nothing left. He lost his wife and daughter and was soon about to become a refusenik and not only lose his job, but maybe even go to prison for committing high treason. I think that Tolya fled the Soviet Union as soon as Nadia died, leaving the apartment untouched. If VP found out that he was trying to get to Israel in 1985, there's a good chance that he was able to get permission and enter the country by 1986, as long as he was able to leave the Soviet Union, although I've got no idea if that's how it actually could have worked. There's also the point to be made that Tolya never actually had an intention of going to Israel and that it was all made up by VP in his obsession with Tamara. But now that Tolya had nothing left, he conceded that there was no point even trying to defend himself, even if he was innocent, and just fled anyway. That means that regardless of whether or not Tolya was actually trying to get to Israel, it doesn't really matter, because it doesn't change anything. He still lost his family and was probably about to lose his career as well, and for one reason or another, abandoned the apartment and took nothing. I think that that's also the conclusion that the game wants you to make, because it never actually ties up that plotline. Anyway, that's the end of Bright Lights of Svetlov, and before I go, I want to let you know that I do not have a single subscriber. So, if you're my first subscriber, I want you to screenshot it and then send it to me somehow. And I promise I will give you free exclusive access to my OnlyFans whenever I make that when this channel fails.